The man next door ordered me to cut down my trees, claiming their leaves mess up my pool. When I declined, he secretly poisoned them and bragged, "Problem solved, you should thank me." I showed him the security footage and said, "You just admitted to property damage. Enjoy explaining that in court." I've lived in Flagstaff, Arizona, for over 15 years now. Quiet neighborhood. Real mix of people, families, retirees, a few college kids renting out houses. I've always minded my business. I'm a divorced woman in my 50s, no kids, just my dog Charlie and my little house. I work from home doing bookkeeping. Not exciting, but it pays the bills. The best part of my place is my yard, especially the 4 aspens in the back. I planted them with my dad 12 years ago. He was sick back then, and he said he wanted to do something with his hands one last time. We planted them in early April. He passed that November. So yeah, those trees mean something. I've taken care of them like they're part of the family. Then last summer, the house next door sold. I was nervous when I saw it listed. I liked the older couple who used to live there. They were kind. Brought me cookies at Christmas. When Richard moved in, I had no idea how fast things would turn sour. Richard looked like the kind of guy who golfed every weekend and complained to managers for fun. Big bald spot he tried to hide with a comb-over. Always wore a tucked-in polo, even to check the mail. His first day, I brought over banana bread. I'm old school like that. He opened the door, looked at the plate, didn't even say thank you, and shut the door. Okay, cool. Not a friendly guy. Fine. I didn't care. About a month later, he came knocking. It was late October. I was raking the front yard when I heard pounding on the door. I wiped my hands and answered it. "Your trees are a problem," he said, right off the bat. No hello, no intro. Just that. I blinked. "I'm sorry?" He pointed toward my backyard. "Those aspens. The leaves are blowing into my pool." Now, keep in mind, his pool is in his backyard, and my trees aren't right on the property line. There's a good 10 feet of grass and a 6-foot privacy fence between us. And yeah, it's autumn. Leaves blow around. It's what happens. I said, "They're healthy trees, and they're on my property. I'm not cutting them down." He glared at me. "You're liable. I'll call the city." "You do that," I said, and I shut the door. He stormed off. I figured that was the end of it. Just a cranky old man griping about something stupid. But something about the way he looked at the trees made my skin crawl. 2 weeks later, I was walking Charlie in the backyard and noticed something off. One of the aspens had dark spots on the bark near the base. The leaves had gone from golden yellow to a sickly brown, and they were falling faster than they should. The next day, a second tree looked the same. I called an arborist. He came out that Friday, walked around the trees, knelt down at the base, and immediately frowned. "These trees have been poisoned," he said. "See these? Small drill holes right here. Someone injected something. Probably herbicide." I stood there in shock. "Who would do that?" I asked, but I already knew. He looked at me, dead serious. "This wasn't an accident. You need to report this." I thanked him and paid his fee. As soon as he left, I went inside and opened my laptop. What Richard didn't know was that I'd installed security cameras, one in the front and one in the back, after our first run-in. I didn't even tell my sister about them. They weren't fancy, just motion-detecting floodlight cams. But they caught everything. I sat there for hours, scrubbing through footage. Then, on a Thursday morning around 3:17 a.m., there he was. Richard. Wearing dark clothes, hood up, carrying a flashlight and what looked like a power drill in one hand. He crept through the side of his yard and climbed up on something, a little step stool maybe, so he could lean over the fence. I watched in disbelief as he reached over with the drill and started making small holes in each tree. Then he took a long syringe-like tool and squirted something into each hole. Tree by tree. One after another. He was in and out in under 10 minutes. I watched that clip maybe 20 times. My hands were shaking. I couldn't sleep that night. My dad helped me plant those trees. And this man, this smug, entitled, soulless bastard, thought he could kill them because of a few leaves? The next morning, I copied the footage to a flash drive and backed it up to 2 different cloud drives. Then I called a lawyer I knew from church. She told me what to do: file a police report, log the footage, and write down everything that had happened. 2 days later, he knocked on my door again. This time he was grinning. I opened the door just a crack. "See your trees?" he said, looking way too happy. "Looks like the problem solved itself." I just stared at him. He leaned in, real casual. "You should be thanking me." That was the moment everything flipped. I walked away without a word, came back, and handed him the flash drive. He looked at it like it was trash. "What's this?" "Security footage," I said. "You poisoning my trees." His face changed, fast, like his whole body stiffened. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. I added calmly, "You just admitted it. That's property damage. That's trespassing. That's felony vandalism." "You're bluffing," he said. But his voice cracked. "I'm not." Then I shut the door. After I closed the door, I didn't hear from Richard for 2 days. I figured maybe he was trying to figure out what to do. Maybe call a lawyer. Maybe pack a bag. I didn't care. I was focused on the police report. I went down to the station with the footage, the arborist's written statement, and everything printed out and organized. The officer who took my report was young, maybe late 20s, but serious. He watched the video 3 times, then whistled low. "This is solid," he said. "This isn't just some neighborly argument. This is criminal." He filed the report and said a detective would be in touch. That was a relief. I thought it was finally moving forward. Then the next day, I got a notice on my door. It was from the HOA. I'm not even in an HOA. But Richard was on the board of his HOA across the street and somehow convinced the one street over to partner on certain property concerns. It was unofficial, but now he was trying to drag me into it. The notice said I was in violation of neighborhood landscaping standards and needed to remove all dead trees within 10 days or face daily fines. I stood there on my porch holding the paper, heart racing. He was trying to make me clean up his crime. I called the contact number on the notice. Some woman named Cheryl. I told her the story, said I wasn't even in their HOA, and that this whole thing was going to court. She was polite but unhelpful. "You'll need to take that up with the board." Oh, I plan to. But it wasn't just notices. That night, someone threw a rock through my front window. I don't know if it was Richard or someone he got to do it, but I filed another report. Cops came, took photos, asked questions. But without video proof this time, it was just more noise, more harassment. That was when I decided to go public. I posted everything: tree poisoning, video footage, police reports, even the HOA notice on the town's Facebook group and the Nextdoor app. I included still shots of Richard's face from the footage, clear as day. The post exploded. Within hours, I had dozens of messages. Neighbors from his old neighborhood messaged me saying he did similar things before. Complained about their dogs, their kids, even reported one woman for illegal gardening. One guy said Richard tried to sue him over a fence shadow landing on his grass. But it got better. One woman sent me a message that changed everything. She said, "Hi, I saw your post. I used to work with Richard at the city permit office. He got fired 2 years ago for falsifying documents. If you're going to court, I have records that might help." I called her immediately. She told me Richard had been forced to resign after someone found out he was doctoring neighborhood surveys to push his own property complaints. She said he had a pattern of bullying people, especially women living alone. She sent me scanned copies of the old complaints and a resignation memo with his name on it. Now I had a real story. So I added that to the police file. I updated the post. I let my lawyer know everything. And the best part? The local news caught wind. A reporter reached out, and after checking the police report and seeing the footage, they wanted to do a story on it, about neighbor harassment and property rights. I agreed, but told them not to air my face or house. Just the facts. The story aired that Friday night. Blurred faces. Footage of Richard's late-night poisoning. The arborist's statement. Even the rock through my window. By Sunday morning, his yard had been tagged with spray paint. Someone wrote "tree killer" in big red letters on his garage. He called the cops. I watched them show up, and for once, he looked small. Not smug. Just scared. But this wasn't over yet. That Monday, I got a letter in the mail. Certified. Return address was a law firm downtown. Richard was suing me for defamation. I almost laughed out loud. After everything he did, he was now playing the victim. According to his lawyer, my social media posts and slanderous accusations caused him emotional distress, damaged his reputation, and led to property vandalism. He was asking for $50,000 in damages. I took the letter straight to my lawyer. She rolled her eyes and said, "This is a scare tactic. Let's bury him." We drafted a response, then filed a countersuit. Not only for the damage to my trees, but for trespassing, harassment, attempted retaliation, and emotional distress. And with the video footage, the arborist's report, police documentation, and now his bogus HOA stunt and fake lawsuit, she was confident we had a strong case. But then came the twist I didn't expect. A city code inspector showed up at my door. He said someone had anonymously reported me for improper water drainage and unsafe landscaping conditions. Apparently, the death of my trees, caused by Richard, was now being used against me. I nearly lost it, but here's where it turned. The inspector walked around the property, took some notes, then said quietly, "I saw the news. This is a setup, isn't it?" I nodded. "Yes." He shook his head. "Don't worry. I'll note everything's fine." He handed me a clean report. People like him always pushed too far. That gave me a second wind. I wasn't going to hide. I wasn't going to fold. If Richard wanted war, I was going to meet him in court with everything I had. And then the final piece dropped. A man named Victor called me. He was quiet at first, asked if I was the woman dealing with Richard. I said yes. He said, "I'm his brother." That stopped me cold. I saw the news. I knew it was him the second I watched it. I haven't talked to him in 5 years, but I figured you might want to know something. Victor told me Richard had done this sort of thing before. In Florida. He said Richard used to manipulate city workers, bully widows for property lines, and even tried to force an elderly neighbor into selling her land by threatening to call zoning every day. "He's sick," Victor said. "Always has been." I asked, "Why are you telling me this?" He said, "Because someone needs to stop him." Victor emailed me documents from that Florida case. A restraining order. A formal complaint from a city worker. A settlement agreement. It wasn't the same as video proof, but it painted a long, ugly pattern. I sent everything to my lawyer. She said it was gold. Then the court date arrived. Richard came in wearing a press suit, looking like a bad car salesman. But when the judge watched the footage of him poisoning my trees, his expression didn't change. He was stone cold. When my lawyer presented the arborist's affidavit, the police reports, and even Victor's testimony by phone, Richard finally looked nervous. But the most satisfying moment? When the judge asked him, "Did you or did you not enter the plaintiff's property without permission?" Richard started to stammer. My lawyer cut in. "Your Honor, we can show the exact moment." She played the footage again. The whole room was silent, just the sound of that drill and the trees shaking. The judge leaned back, folded his hands, and said, "We'll take a recess. But I've seen enough." We weren't at the ending yet. Not quite. But he wasn't walking out of that courtroom the same smug man who threatened me on my porch. When we came back from recess, Richard looked like he'd aged 10 years. His hands were shaking. His lawyer kept whispering in his ear. My own stomach was tight. I didn't know exactly how it would end, but I had a feeling. The judge didn't waste time. He looked at Richard and said, "Mr. Barrett, based on the evidence presented, video surveillance, expert testimony, and documented harassment, I'm finding you responsible for property damage, trespassing, and civil harassment." Richard's mouth opened, but the judge cut him off. "You are ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $38,000 for the loss of the trees, emotional distress, and repair costs. You are also prohibited from contacting Ms. Monroe in any way. A restraining order will be issued today." His face turned red. He stood up fast, knocking over his chair. His lawyer grabbed his arm, trying to calm him down. The judge wasn't done. Regarding the defamation claim, the judge continued, "There is no basis. Publicizing a crime backed by video evidence and police reports is not defamation. That case is dismissed with prejudice." And just like that, everything Richard tried to do, turn it back on me, silence me, blew up in his face. But the ending didn't stop there. 2 days after the hearing, the local news ran a follow-up story. This time, they used his name. Full name. Mugshot from the restraining order filing. Comments from neighbors, including people from his past. Richard lost his job at the real estate firm he worked at remotely. He got dropped by his HOA board. The city inspector who came by? Turns out he was already being investigated for multiple false reports, all tied back to Richard. The fallout was real. But here's where I have to admit something. I didn't stop there. A part of me could have moved on. I had my court win. He was paying damages. The restraining order was in place. But I didn't want peace. I wanted ruin. So I did one last thing. I printed every document, every email from Florida, every photo and still from the footage, and sent a packet to every house on our street. No note, no return address. Just the truth. Neighbors started avoiding him. People stopped waving. Some started yelling at him in the street. 2 months later, he sold his house. He left in the middle of the night. U-Haul, no goodbye. The real estate listing never mentioned why he left so fast. But I know, a part of me felt satisfied, but also tired, and maybe a little ashamed, because I didn't have to go that far. I didn't have to keep twisting the knife once I'd already won. But I wanted him to feel everything I did. The loss, the fear, the anger, the helplessness. My trees are gone. All 4 of them. I planted new ones though. Same spots. Same type. It'll take years for them to grow. I'll probably be old before they look the way they used to. But when they do, they'll stand as a reminder. Not just of Richard, but of me, what I let myself become to take him down. And the cost of revenge, even when it's deserved.